Nah, good stuff here. This is way back to 1987.
Say go all the way. I believe all the way. All the way. I believe all the way. Say go all the way. We've been down too long, too many years. We must resume the fight, continue to persevere. There's one minor change in this repeating show. The Saints are going to the playoffs.
Just because we lost doesn't mean you can't stop believing. You've got to believe. So we go back in time to 1987. That song there, I believe, Go All the Way. Angela Bell was the singer back then. And very popular song in 1987, the first time the Saints made the playoffs. Welcome, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, and Who Dat Nation, to an episode of Under the Dome. First one. What? Oh.
What are you doing? What are you squealing for? What are you squealing for? Makes me laugh.
So in Los Angeles, we brought our special guest with us, Mr. Bob Rose. But let's first introduce Sean Williams, our co-host. How you doing tonight, Sean?
Doing great, man. Keeping the faith. I'm as disappointed as anyone that we were not able to make a more positive showing in Los Angeles, especially the long-term ramifications of what this game could mean down the road. But it is what it is. No matter how disappointing it may or may not have been, life goes on, and there's more business to attend to. And the overwhelming takeaway that I have from this game is the fact that we've lost 3 games this season. We're 8-3. We've lost 3 games. 1 to a fellow 8-3 team, and 2 to a 9-2 team and another 9-2 team. There's no disgrace in that. This team, every bit as good as what we thought it was. This game does nothing to change that. It's a bump in the road. In my opinion, it should not have been, but we'll get into that a little further later. We want to thank Fan First Productions for sponsoring us and invite everyone to join us on YouTube and on iTunes, where you can go and subscribe to our podcast and get this quality content every last week. Also, I want to invite everyone to download the Red Peach Sports app. Thursday night at 6:30, I will be making my triumphant return to broadcast radio locally on 97.7. Victoria Black on the Sports Beat as a special featured guest covering the Saints. I'm really, really looking forward to that, as Santoria is one of my big time heroes. But we want to welcome, as Alan calls him, the official third member of our broadcast team, Mr. Bob Rose, covering the Saints for the. And okay, I'm getting to it, and also Will, Bob's newborn son. Bob, how are you guys doing tonight?
Oh, we're doing real well, Alan, Sean. Thank you, as always, for having me on. Happy belated Thanksgiving, Who Dat Nation. It's a shame our boys couldn't bring a win home from Los Angeles, but I wouldn't be ready to jump off of that bridge just yet. I think we're still looking at a good football team. Just put themselves in a little bit of a corner this upcoming week, but I hope everybody enjoyed their Thanksgiving.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's been a fun ride for 8 games. And listen, guys, did uh, it was a third seed, not a battle for the first seed, not a battle for the second seed. This the third seed, you can seed. Change anything? Difference is that maybe you're going to have to travel down Minnesota if you win the wild card round. Getting ahead of ourselves, but this is the playoff season with the we're entering right now things that really matter over the next 5 weeks. This Sunday, you've got Atlanta Thursday, then Atlanta again, and then Tampa. 2 of the 3 teams that you're playing, 3 it's playoff teams that you have to beat to win the division, teams that you have to beat to ensure a playoff spot. Those are the games. If we beat the Rams, he loses 2 games of the next 5. Loses 2 games or 3 games, I should say, of the next 5. To get in it's not worth it. I think Philadelphia's got a pretty easy schedule, and losing another game is not very good. So this loss in a positive way, destiny, you're still in control of getting one of the top seeds that you get to hope in driver's seat. All that matters right now. Now we made up playing around. We can do to beat these guys. We know what this game that would have beaten these guys. So awesome. Tirade.
Oh, maybe I should introduce Lauren as well.
Maybe so.
I'm having technical difficulties on my end, guys. You keep breaking up, so if you've tried to ask me a question and I missed it, I apologize ahead of time.
Oh, no problem. We've been having some glitches lately. It will hang up. So let me ask you then: what do you think went wrong against the Rams?
Well, first and foremost, this game may have clinched Marshawn Lattimore as Defensive Rookie of the Year, and I say that for this reason. You know, he and Ken Crawley, both sat out the game because of injury, and the Los Angeles offense did a great job of taking advantage of that. The Saints secondary had no choice but to play off coverage. I know Saints fans were probably screaming at their TV, all across the nation. Play tighter coverage. Devontae Harris, who did not have a good game, seems to be the whipping boy this week. But guys, I mean, he's a fourth cornerback really that was pressed into starting duty on starting caliber wide receivers. I mean, what did we expect to happen? And the Saints defense couldn't get quick enough pressure on Jared Goff to make him rush throws and hopefully make mistakes out of that. So the Rams were really able to move the ball at will throughout the game in the air. Offensively, we talked about it a little bit before we got on the show. All 3 of us were in agreement. The Saints' offensive line, in my opinion, was the biggest problem offensively that this team had. They had probably their poorest game since the Vikings opener, really. They blocked decently in the run game, but New Orleans needed to give Breeze some time. patterns to develop downfield, and the line just wasn't giving him that kind of protection against. Let's be honest too. You're talking about an extremely talented Rams front four, but the Saints offensive line has fared very well against talented front fours really all throughout their winning streak. So offensive line was, in my opinion, the biggest problem, and the darn kick coverage, be it punt returns or kickoff returns, all game long they cannot they can't cover a kick, and it was given the Rams excellent field position. And when you have an offense that's on a roll, you give them a short field, your backs are going to be against the wall all game long.
Well, why in the hell were we kicking to Pharaoh Cooper to begin with?
I wish I had an answer. I wish I had an answer that wasn't full of words I'm not allowed to say on a family friendly podcast. No, I don't know. I don't know. I see this, and I know that we just brought on a new special teams coach to add on to the staff, and I think this is his second game with the team. Is that right? And
second game.
I've seen no improvement in kick coverage whatsoever. This special teams unit scares the heck out of me.
If I think that's the biggest weakness in the Saints, because past 3 years, at least nearly the entire bottom half of the roster trying to get players who are good special teams guys and have an impact. Not seeing that. Brought in coach, everybody hated and couldn't wait to get out in assistants. We brought in to the assistants. We brought in a new special teams coach, and we're still seeing guys. It's just, and that's the biggest thing you're seeing. If your special teams come down, everybody's supposed to be in their lanes. Everybody's got a gap. So take away the cut and the openings. All you have to do is look. If you see 2 or 3 guys area, that's people out of. That's not how you. So I'm not sure what it is. They're not getting to the players. They know what they're supposed to be doing. So if Lutz doesn't kick it out the end zone, Armstead doesn't angle it to the corners, returns on us. Meanwhile, this is to the law. Saints can't return a punt, off. They can't do anything on special teams. So we're constantly starting the 25 or less against defense, much less a Wade Phillips coach, Steve Belichick coach defense, or an Adam Zimmer coach defense. 80, 75, 90 for touch, and we just have not been getting it. I'm sorry. I swallowed wrong. Excuse me. Keys to the loss. Per first down they picked up versus the Saints yards per first down. I don't know. I couldn't find it on whether you want to use your search, but I couldn't find the exact stat. Or I'm almost the Rams were getting average. That really screwed up your game plan. Playing second and short consistently through a ball game over the clock, you're going to get drives going because it's a lot easier to convert those. Behind and down in distance, that's when the Saints were able to stop them. Meanwhile, the Saints weren't getting much of anything on first down. whether they ran the ball or passed it. You know, I know a lot of people were talking about, more. Kamara got 74 yards on one carry. They couldn't stop him. He got other plays. Yes, they did stop him. If you go back and look at the game, I know it's only 16 carries between the two of them, but there were plays where they were getting Kamara in the backfield, or Kamara was getting the yardage and not getting much out of it. The big plays you remember, it's the little plays that we were missing because they kept being third and long, and then if you get a holding penalty, it makes it even worse. And you can't, against a Wade Phillips coach defense or against any good defense, you're not going to be able to convert those like you used to do.
No, you're absolutely right, and to your point, Alan. I'm looking. I tend to chart the opening two drives of both teams during the last couple of months, both in the first half and the second half, and I'm seeing things like the Saints opened the game with an empty set shotgun and hit Thomas for a quick slant. But other than that, I'm seeing things like Ingram over left guard on first down for a gain of 1, Ingram over right guard for a gain of 2, so on and so on. And like you said, that put him behind the sticks. And Kamara, obviously his rushing average was boosted by that 73-yard beauty, but for the part, he was doing an impersonation of Barry Sanders or Gale Sayers just to get back to the line of scrimmage. Just like we talked about to open the show, the Saints linemen were getting beat and beat fast, and it wasn't allowing neither Kamara or Ingram to find the cutback lanes. Let alone, during this 8-game winning streak, a lot of times they weren't even touched until they got to the second level of the defense, and that's a huge difference.
Exactly, because when the Saints are playing with second and short, the offensive playbook rule with them. There's multiple things they can do. But when they're playing 9, 11, Alec Ogletree played a hell of a game. But had the linebackers just, hang right about 5 yards, 7 yards down, because they're getting pressure. 6 feet tall. You've got offensive 6'3" and taller, okay? 6'5". If Street was there, 6'7". With tall offensive linemen. So how does Breeze see he takes, instead of a 5 to 7 step drop, he's taking a 9-step drop, okay? So he can see the guys open up late. Well, if the rush is coming in, he take a 9-step drop because that's a huge loss. So now he's taking a 5. So now the routes have to be, and if the pressure is coming up, coming around the edge, and he hit the passing game cold, that line. I'm talking about Unger. I'm talking about what to be a wall. He's to slide up if the rush is side, or they have to protect him in that perfect pocket. He can and hit receivers, because there were several receivers who were open in the game. Time to get to him. So again, a bad game. Rams took advantage of it. It was lost.
Let me ask you guys this, and Sean, you and I were texting a little bit after the game. There's a few things that I noticed. One major thing that I noticed about Breeze pretty much all game long. Now, remember on that first drive, he took a hard shot from behind. I think it was Aaron Donald that got him, but he took a hard shot from behind, forced an incomplete pass, but he got hit right along the back shoulder. And I noticed at least 5 times during the game that Breeze missed an open receiver because he couldn't get the ball there. The ball was short. Now, I mean, Drew has never been known for his arm strength, but he can make all the necessary NFL throws. Did either one of you guys notice, him coming up short like that? Am I just reading too much into it?
No, not at all. I think that Drew had probably his worst game in recent memory in terms of accuracy and and down throwing the ball down the field. I noticed that early on, and he managed to pick it up there towards the end of the game when we made that some odd yard drive in 4 or 5 plays. He hit those out receivers where Tony Romo was telling them to guard and they didn't. Noticed that early on as well too.
I think it was the most egregious play where he had him on a third down, and it was a big drive too, and he one hopped it. And I mean, you don't see Drew one hopping in longer range intermediate routes unless he's throwing the ball away. Like if he recognizes he cannot fit the ball into tight coverage, it's
right.
It's a non-intentional throwaway or however you want to term it. He just and like you said, Sean, he did not look sharp at all. And part of that was the pressure that he was under pretty much all game. It was a perfect storm and one that did not go New Orleans' way.
I have to go back.
I want to make it very clear that as I'm sitting here and we're discussing everything that went wrong for the Saints, I don't want in any way, shape, form, or fashion to sell short the Rams put forth, because the Rams absolutely came ready to play. They had a perfectly executed game plan, and they knew absolutely what they had to do to attack this New Orleans defense, to attack this New Orleans offense, and they did it almost flawlessly.
Oh, absolutely. I'll be honest. And who among us did not have this circled as a win for the Saints in preseason? Most of us probably had this. When we were sitting down looking at the schedule, we were probably, that's gonna be a win. Even though it's on the road, it's gonna be a win. And even the Rams, with lofty offensive and defensive statistics and a great record coming in and some nice wins on their resume, I wasn't a believer coming into this. It'd be a tough game because we were without both our starting corners, and therefore I did pick the Rams to win, but that was very begrudgingly. I walked out of that game. I'm a believer in this team now. I mean, they're a factor in this playoff race.
Rams losing to Minnesota the week before really motivated them to win this game, because they didn't want to go on a 2-game losing streak, because they have that reputation of, folding like a cheap tent. They haven't been in the playoffs since 2004. Rams needed this game like that. Much more aggressive Saints than I have seen in recent weeks. That's not to say, I mean, they haven't played well all season, but they really needed this game against a playoff caliber team, because they knew that they would probably have to end up facing the Saints again at some point. So they wanted to get that confidence back. They wanted to show their fans that this is a team, and like you said, that you believe in them now, because the Saints beat the Rams this past Sunday. The talk would be a lot more about, okay, when do the Seahawks make their move? Going to again, because Seattle will probably win that division. All that kind of talk would come up, and the Rams hear that. So they came dressed, because a lot of people were talking about, well, I don't understand why Sean didn't run the football against a 28th ranked defense. Not going to run. They knew that's what the Saints did well. They were going to take that away. Wade Phillips had schemed to take that away. fact that they were whipping the Saints offensive line showed that the Saints could not run the ball in this game.
Yeah.
And it is concerning on my side as a Saints fan that when the run is taken away from us now, we're struggling to throw the ball. And that's not a good thing. Because for so long, I've seen this offense just be able to move the ball at will in the passing game when they needed to. And we haven't really seen that this season, and except for the final few minutes of the Washington game. And we saw that probably the first 8 passes that Drew Brees threw, you didn't see that consistently. That, I don't think Drew hit 100 yards passing until midway through the third quarter. So, that is what was concerning to me.
I think it was just over 100 until the beginning of the fourth quarter. Something like 106, 109, something like that.
Yeah, and Drew usually gets 109 after the first 2 drives.
Right.
So that is concerning. Because if anything's going to hold the Saints back now, and it's going to be our passing game, which is unbelievable to say. All these years we relied on Drew Brees to win a game for us. If our passing game is holding us back now, that's a huge problem going into the playoffs. I think it won't be that much of a factor this week against Carolina, because I think this is going to be a fist fight, street fight in the mud, gouging eyes, kicking, kicking shins, that kind of stuff. This is going to be an ugly street fight, which is basically play that kind of game. It's not going to be a shootout. An offense, though, that can play the shootout game, because we're going to need to be able to do that against Atlanta. It's Philadelphia again in the playoffs if we get that far.
Yeah, well, yeah, and you look at the other top contenders in the NFC, and Minnesota, terrific defense. Carolina, terrific defense. LA, terrific defense, and a diversified offense. And who am I missing? Philadelphia. Philadelphia is putting together a solid team, and New Orleans for the last 2 months. Very much improved defense. It ranks right up there statistically with the best of the guys that we just mentioned up until the last 2 games. The two-headed attack with Ingram and Kamara at running game. All that is an even wash for all the rest of the competitors in the NFC. Well, what's the one thing that New Orleans has that the rest of the teams do not? Drew Brees. And if that passing game isn't performing well, and frankly, I don't think Brees is the problem. Yes, he did not play well this past game, but anybody that thinks that he has declined to the point where he's no longer a Super Bowl winning quarterback, that's a ridiculous thing to say or think. My concern is, and we talked about it, before the show, the other targets, the complementary targets, are just not getting open for New Orleans and making the plays. Either down the field to get open, or in the shorter targets, shorter passes with the ball in their hands. You know what you're going to get from Michael Thomas. You know what you're going to get from Alvin Kamara. If a defense takes those 2 away, then somebody else better step up, and they're not doing it.
No, the Willie Snead vanishing act is really concerning because, last year we had Thomas over 1,000 yards receiving and almost 100 receptions. Cooks with 1,000 yards receiving and about 80 receptions.
Something like
and then
that.
Then you had Snead, who was right up there, right next to Cooks as far as receptions, yards receiving. And Snead is a non-factor. I think Snead has a total of maybe less than 10 passes this year. Snead was Mr. Third Down. He was your Lance Moore. He was the guy who was getting open when nobody else was open. And he's not doing how many receptions he's got? 4?
3. Yeah,
He's not.
Snead has
Yeah,
three catches all season.
Three catches for 32 yards in 6 games.
There's your problem right there. You don't have that guy, third down guy, covered, and Kamara's covered. He's going to extend the drive. And I don't know what's going on mentally. He's not in the game from his suspension and his injury. I don't know. It's just like it's a totally different receiver that we're seeing this year. And I don't know. That's we're trying to manufacture it with Coleman and but you're not getting that out of those two guys.
Yeah, and you got to give Coleman and Ginn both credit. They have had Ginn, I think, is having his best season. As a receiver, certainly.
By far.
Yeah, and he's played better than any of us anticipated. But he's no Willie Snead. He's no Lance Moore. He's not going to be that dependable third down guy where everybody on the field and in the stands and watching on TV knows that the ball's coming to him and he still makes the play. He's your big play threat, and he is balling out. But he's not going to give you the type of production that Snead or in the past Lance Moore or even Jimmy Graham gave, and that's what the team's missing.
The secret of any good, it's route running. It's you being able to sell and sit back, no matter what route you're running, because it all looks the same to them, and they make one move, and that's all it takes to generate the separation they need to get that completion. And you're not going to get that again. Ginn's not that kind of receiver. Ginn is your Devery Henderson kind of receiver. He's going to stretch the field. He'll get you deep out, so get those kind of plays. But he's not that accomplished route runner. And neither is Thomas. Lance Moore, in the old Saints receiving corps, was your best route runner. And Willie Snead, up until this year, was your best route runner. So, you're missing that. So it's very concerning. And that, I think, is what's really hurting the passing game. Even more so than the struggles of the offensive line. Because there are times where Breeze has been open and he just has not been able to get the ball to him.
Bob.
Breeze has had time and not been able to get the ball to him.
Bob, thank you for being with us, brother. It's time for the tag out.
Yes.
Follow your work, brother.
Well, guys, like you said, Sean, I write for the Canal Street Chronicles, and they can be followed on Twitter at Saint CSC, and also have a Facebook page. And my own personal work can be followed not only through Canal Street Chronicles, but also on my Facebook page or my Twitter handle, which is Bobby R2613. And we have a lot of great writers for Canal Street Chronicles. We're working on simultaneous projects. So I hope you give us a follow. And if you do follow me, send me messages. I love to talk football. So appreciate you guys having me on. And I think I've just been traded.
Not yet, not quite, but you're always welcome, Bob.
No,
Thanks,
man. Considering
Thank you.
Considering that we're doing this with a North Carolina resident, we're just determined that this is going to be like tag team wrestling. You're being tagged out, man.
It's for a 1 fall, 10-minute time limit. Oh, I'm really showing my age. I know that.
And thank you, Bob.
Take care, guys. Talk to you soon.
Love you, man.
Love you too. See you
Thank
guys.
you, Bob.
Bob.
All right, and now we have with us one of the co-hosts and the founders, Cat Chronicles, Mr.
Founder of the feast for us, brother.
Yeah, founder of us too. How you doing tonight, Joey?
I'm doing excellent, guys. I'm thankful to be here. I appreciate you having me on, and I'm just pleased as punch at how well you guys are doing with this podcast. It has really blossomed into a fantastic show. And I know your fans and your followers get some really great insight and information about this team. And I just want to say thank you for the excellent job you're doing.
Well, thank you for the compliments, Joey. I have to admit, I go to your guys' site a lot and watch y'all's podcasts, and he gives me ideas on how to grow ours because you guys kind of set the standard. Y'all have a really great show. We're going to do about 20 minutes, 25 minutes from now at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time. The Cat Chronicles is really, even if you're not a Carolina Panthers fan, it's still fun to watch because you guys are informative and entertaining, and I enjoy watching you show. I really do.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we try to keep it entertaining for sure. We really do.
My podcasting days, so to speak, got started with C3 because I was covering the Saints for Pro Football Spot, and these guys approached me, and I'm like, I don't know who these dudes are, but hey, they want me to come on, and I was going to do a 10-minute drop-in with these guys and wound up staying for an hour and a half one night. And it wound up to a few follow-ups, and through the course of the conversation, things just kind of grew, and Joey and I began a dialogue that, long story short, developed into Under the Dome. And Joey, I tell you, every chance I get, you're one of my closest confidants, closest friends. We share a lot more in common than just NFC South football, and you've been a major influence and a major help. You remain that to this day, and once again, I want to tell you just how very thankful I am for the opportunity to see this to fruition and to have the opportunity to do that. You guys always hear me talk at the beginning of the show about Fan First Productions. Well, we are welcoming in tonight Mr. Fan First Productions, Joey Riolano from the Carolina Cat Chronicles.
Well, like I said, it is a privilege to be here. We've got some serious football talk to carry on here in the next 20, 25 minutes or so. And I'm really looking forward to that.
Well, Joey, one of the first podcasts I remember watching or was anxious to hear was the podcast right after the Panthers traded Kelvin Benjamin away. And Tony, your co-host, that has turned out to be very prophetic. He mentioned that it actually would be a good thing to move Benjamin because he and Funches were a lot alike. There was almost like the same receiver playing two different roles. And it seems to be since Benjamin's moved on to Buffalo, Carolina's offense has kind of turned around and gotten a lot more consistent. Would you agree with that?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I can tell you one statistic that I saw this past weekend that says it all. The Panthers with Funches in the game, playing, active on the roster and playing, are 18, 26, and 1. And the Panthers without Funches playing in the game are 17 and 1. So that right there says it all. And I think when we were struggling early in the season, the coaches and probably some of the front office personnel got together and were trying to figure out where the disconnect was or where was the problem. We'd had such a spectacular 2015 and then, a terrible 2016. And here we are just struggling with mediocrity in 2017, and we were trying to figure out where everything went wrong. And I think after crunching the numbers and going over personnel and just trying to look everywhere, they discovered the elephant in the room was Kelvin Benjamin.
Well, let me ask
That's interesting.
Let me
I
ask you
think
this, Joey. Him coming into camp this year looking like a butterball turkey. Did that have anything to do with going along with him as well?
I don't know that they would ever admit to that, but I can't believe it didn't have some bearing. And the reason I say that is this was not the first time. This was not the first time that Kelvin Benjamin had come into camp heavy. So, I think at that point they were really questioning his commitment, his passion for the game. And
Well,
then,
I think you'd have to.
most certainly. And then you have to think, well, this guy is getting ready to be on his last year of his contract. I think next year he would have been eligible for free agency. And if he's your number one, you're going to have to sign him to number one money. And they really had to ask themselves, is he worth number one receiver kind of money? And I don't think there's any way possible they felt that he was worth it. So when you look at 2015, you see Funchess was on the team. Kelvin Benjamin was injured. We had a Super Bowl run. Cam had his best season as a quarterback. Why? Because without Kelvin Benjamin there, who's Cam's best friend, by the way, without Benjamin there, Cam was forced to look other places, to find the open guy, not to have in his head, I'm going to look to KB right away, right off the snap. And that made a big difference. So
that's kind of the same narrative that you hear now about Matthew Stafford once Megatron left Detroit.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, same. I don't want to say same sort of thing because, my God, I wish we would have had Megatron. What a great problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, yes. Just looking for that one guy, he's your friend. He's a good player. But you have, like you said, two of the same guys, same type of receiver on the field. We just did not have enough speed out there. We were not a threat to get behind anyone. And once the trade happened, we were better. We got people with speed on the field, and it made a significant difference.
Well, now you look like Nostradamus, absolutely, because Kelvin Benjamin, I think last suffered a torn meniscus, so he's done for the season. So,
right.
Well,
and
go ahead, Alan.
I was going to say, who is your speed receiver now, or do you have one?
It was the kid out of Ohio State, Curtis Samuel.
Curtis Samuel.
Right, but he broke his ankle. So we have Kalen Clay, I think is how you say his first name, who's undrafted. He returned a punt for a touchdown this past weekend for us, the first time, I think, since like 2000. For 12. Maybe 12, something like that.
Yeah. I caught the.
So he's fast.
They played
really fast. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say they played the end of the Carolina game. They played the end of the Carolina game after the Saints. Right before the Saints game, because the Falcons Tampa game ended very early, so they played the final minute and a half or 3 minutes of the game.
Yeah, and he really showed. I didn't realize exactly how fast he was until I saw that. But he's not really picked up the offense completely yet. So we have him, who we're hoping, can get more involved in offense as he begins to, develop an understanding. We have Demir Bird, who's eligible to come back this week, who's really fast, really started to pick up the offense, but broke his arm. So he's coming back from that injury. Greg Olson's coming back this week, so that will help minimize the loss of that speed on the outside. If he can play, he played one game, I think maybe a series or a couple of plays last week, and his foot started bothering him again, so they yanked him. He's gotten clearance from the podiatrist, and the podiatrist says everything's okay. So they're hoping to be able to work him in considerably more this coming weekend.
Yeah, because he's the Saints killer, honestly, on the Panthers. They have a hard time stopping Greg Olson. He's probably the biggest threat I worry about on the team, is because we have a hard time matching up for whatever reason. We have a hard time matching up with tight ends, and Greg Olson's one of the best ones. So yeah.
I was gonna say, don't make it seem like it's just the Saints that do. Most teams have a difficult time matching up because he's a very good player, but he's more than anything, I think, it's just he's so savvy. He's got that veteran savviness that just knows where to be at the right time.
I wanted him. He was drafted in 2007. The Saints took Robert Meacham, and the very next pick was Greg Olson, who went to the Chicago Bears. And to this day, I still don't understand why we didn't take Olson 7, but we never did. And
I wanted it
ever since.
I was really hoping the Panthers would draft him because I watched him play in Miami. And I knew he was going to come into the league and really, make a name for himself.
Well, as goes this Carolina offense, let me back that up. As goes Cam Newton, so goes this Carolina offense. When Cam struggles, this offense struggles, obviously. How has Riverboat Ron and the Brain Trust been able to slowly integrate this offense just through Cam Newton, but also through Chris Mack? How has his maturation process been for the Panthers?
Panther fans like to refer to him as CMC. We had I think it was the Panthers unofficial fan club called Roaring Riot put out a line of t-shirts that said Run CMC, kind of a take, and it was written similar to the old Run DMC logo.
Yeah.
It was Run CMC. So he I think that's been he has been such a big help for Cam. Nobody can cover him. He's uncoverable.
We have one of those too.
Yeah, you certainly do. And him being as quick as he is he's a great outlet for Cam. So that's helped Cam in a big way. Last year, the coaches were really trying to convince Cam to not be so active and involved in the running game. And it hurt us. It certainly hurt us because, it took away one of Cam's greatest abilities. And it made it easier on the defense. He said, Cam in an interview said, how can you tell a lion not to roar? And that's what it felt like they were asking him to do. So this year he's been able to run more. They've put the emphasis on him sliding and getting out of bounds and not taking the pounding that he has in the past. And it seemed to be working. That's another area where Cam's been helped this season and how it differs from last.
I agree with that. In fact, when they drafted Mr. McCaffrey, that's exactly my thought process. They wanted either to get a power back like a Leonard Fournette, guy like a Christian McCaffrey, to get the ball out of Cam's hands quickly, because as you saw last year with the rematch with Denver kind of showed how to stop the Panthers after Cam Newton. If you can get the ball out of his hands and into the hands of his playmakers quickly, yeah, it's less exciting because you don't get the, as Deion Sanders likes to go, Cam. You don't get that, but it leads for a healthier Cam Newton, and it leads to a longer season of Cam Newton under center. And he doesn't miss those games, those little nagging injuries that had been plaguing him most of his career. And it also gives him some longevity to his career, because, defensive linemen get tired of chasing running quarterbacks, and they start really giving them a little extra to stop running.
Oh yeah, he's definitely got more than his fair share of extra. It's unfortunate, but I think it's just human nature. The officials were really tending to view Cam more as a running back than a quarterback, because
absolutely
some of the hits that he was taking and not getting flags, if they would have been done to Tom Brady, people would have gotten suspended.
Right. Yeah.
And it was so obvious, and I think the Panthers and Cam Newton himself really petitioned the NFL and Roger Goodell, saying, "Look, I'm a quarterback. I may run a lot, but I'm a quarterback. I should not be having to take these hits." And I do believe it did kind of raise an awareness amongst the officials that, hey, we can't let some of these hits that these guys are putting on Cam Newton, we can't let them get away with it. So we've seen a little bit of a course correction in that area, thankfully.
I think the officials turn around and say, "Well, stop running," but at the same time, they have to. I argue this all the time. So many penalties are judgment calls. Because theoretically, you could throw a holding flag on almost every play.
Right, Cam is 6'5", 250 pounds, so he doesn't look like a Tom Brady or an Aaron Rodgers. He looks like a defensive end.
Yeah, he does.
And that's another thing that was sort of working against him. But this season, it seems they've been doing a better job of making the right calls when they needed to be made. But
it's a learning process for both.
The Panthers go, and that's been pretty accurate. But Cam being Cam, he is able often, despite having a bad game, to keep teams, to keep the games close. But this past weekend, for example, he didn't have a great game. No touchdown passes. Thankfully, no turnovers. But he looked bad on many of the throws now.
Yeah.
He did have a thumb injury that they were trying to downplay. But I think in looking at the game and some of the throws he made, it's obviously bothering him. So the Jets being the Jets, thankfully, and eventually the Jets showed up, and they did a lot to shoot themselves in the foot. The defense made a great play by getting to the quarterback and causing a fumble, and Luke Kuechly was Johnny on the spot, scoops it up and runs it in for a touchdown. We caught some breaks, but we were just discussing this on our podcast. Good teams find ways to win. It may not always be pretty, or it may not always be stylish, but good teams find ways to win. Like Cam said
that
this
was
past
absolutely us
weekend.
a week ago.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right.
Right. You get
Exactly right.
you give a little
Cam said that.
I'll be totally honest with you. The Washington Redskins kicked our ass for for 3 3/4 of a ball game.
Mm-hmm.
And Drew Brees came back and led 2 drives, and we managed to squeak one out in overtime. But that, to be totally honest, if I'm being totally honest, that did not feel like a win. You recovered that onside kick versus the Rams, and Drew threw a down the field pass to Michael Thomas. Yeah, I would have celebrated. That wouldn't have felt like a win.
Right.
Would have gone down in the records as a W, and
Right.
I would have gladly been hoorahing on here tonight win, but it wouldn't have felt like a win.
Right. Well, look, I have to be perfectly honest with you and say this. Losing that game may not have been a terrible thing. I think that is just going to wake you up, and get you, like, hey, now we're ready for the Panthers. We just lost. Our streak is over. We lost to a good team. We're getting ready to play a good team, potentially for the division crown. So we're going to be ready for this game. And I'm speaking as a Saints fan or a Saints player. They're going to be ready for the Panthers when the Panthers come to town. There's no doubt in my mind.
These next 2 games for the Saints, I'm not sure who the Panthers play next Sunday, but these next 2 games for the Saints. Y'all play the Vikings? Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, then it's same with us, same with y'all. These next 2 games really going to determine the season for both teams.
Right.
Because in my mind, we have to win both games. We can afford to split with the Falcons. I don't think we can afford to split with the Carolina Panthers because y'all have the same record as us.
Sweep one or the other.
Right. I think you're right there. Who do you play in 2 weeks, Alan?
The Falcons. We play you guys Sunday. We play Atlanta on Thursday. Then we play the Jets. We come play Atlanta at home. We go to Tampa to finish.
I didn't catch most of that. I know he said Jets and Tampa to finish. You've got us this week, and then who is it in the week after?
We got you guys at home this week. Atlanta at Atlanta next week. Jets at home the following week. And then home against Atlanta and then at Tampa.
So you have to play Atlanta twice in like the next 3 weeks? 4 weeks.
Sorry?
You have to play Atlanta twice in the next 3 or 4 weeks?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, it was you guys the past 2 seasons. I think it was you guys the past 2 seasons that we played, and then there was a game in between, and then we played right again.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right.
It works out that way for some reason. I think it has something to do with the rescheduling thing that they're doing to keep games at the bottom of the schedule, division games, so that they'll matter, so that people don't rest their starters.
Are you guys still there?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. There you go. Yeah, I think really that's a great move by the NFL because
it is.
By doing so, it keeps the people's interest. Nobody can wrap up their division like in week 11. They gotta go all the way through.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I hated a few seasons ago when the week 15, 16, 17 guys that already had things sewn up they would start sitting their starters. I hated that.
Right. Me too. Me too.
And that was
So
even
yeah,
before I
that's
started
I
playing
didn't.
fantasy football.
Yeah, we have we played Atlanta. We still have to go to Atlanta. We have to play Tampa. I think we go to Tampa.
Okay. Have y'all played Atlanta once already and y'all beat
Yeah,
Atlanta,
we ride
correct?
home. We beat them. Really,
Yeah.
couple two plays, a matter of inches, and they probably should have beat us.
Okay.
We do host Tampa Bay. We do have Tampa Bay at home.
Okay.
So those are the last division games that we still have left on our schedule. But we have the Vikings. We have the Packers.
Okay.
And then Atlanta and Tampa.
Okay.
And what is that? That would put us at week 17?
Yeah. Week 17.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, week 16 has to be Tampa. Week 17 has to be somebody else because we have Tampa at week 17.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking by week 17 with Tampa, the coach is fired, the general manager's fired, the defense, everyone's fired, and half the people are packing up to leave by
By
3
week
o'clock.
17.
Yeah, by week 17. So I'm not expecting much fight out of Tampa.
No, I have to agree with you. I don't see them putting up anything of a fight. They're already going to be on the golf course in their minds.
Yeah, yeah.
I got to tell you, the game that we had against Tampa, I've never seen anything like it. That team, almost from the opening kick.
Really?
That was beyond comprehension to me.
Strange pregame thing where where the quarterback tries to make that W with his fingers, but he sucks his fingers like he just had Kentucky Fried Chicken. Your finger licking good right before kickoff. He makes a W, and it's like, we're gonna eat a W today, and his teammates are all looking at him like, what the hell? And it's just a bizarre. I love David Harrison, our local Bucks guy. And then we got the other guy, Buck, what you heard. He has a great site too. But Tampa is a strange franchise. Something goes on in that franchise with these coaches that they lose those teams so easily. Mm-hmm. And they always, every preseason, we go through this ritual where, man, Tampa's going to be the team to beat. Watch out for Tampa. Look at the talent they accumulated, and it never works out the way it's supposed to.
Right, and every year it's supposed to be. Every year this is their year.
Yeah,
in the past it's never happened, but this is their year, and that's how it is every offseason. They're off-season division champions year in and year out, and they never show up during the regular season. I think you make an excellent point about losing the locker room, and I blame that on leadership amongst the players. Somewhere there's a gap in the leadership of the players, and that's when
I don't know
the coaches.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the type of players they bring in. I don't know if it's the quarterbacks they bring in because, Josh Freeman was no leader. And, I question Jameis Winston's ability to be a leader a lot of times, too. I know he tries to be that high school Harry, rah-rah, let's go, we're going to get this win kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's so much of true leadership, and we're seeing this with Drew Brees, and so much of true leadership it's leadership by example.
Right.
He's so naturally competitive. He's challenging his teammates all the time to do things. And and because he's successful at it, that inspires them to do more. So you can do the rah-rah, you can do, let's go team. But if you're not producing on the field and pushing your teammates on the field, it's like it's just noise. It's not leadership. And
Well,
I
it's
think
got to be backed up by something of substance.
yeah.
And Drew goes out there and he'll give his last drop of blood to win a ball game, and they see that. Now I'm not saying that you're not going to get that out of Gerald McCoy, but Gerald McCoy is not your quarterback, and
Right.
your team is
You
not going to follow. Every member of your team is not going to follow a defensive tackle. Every member of the team is going to follow a quarterback.
Yeah, you also don't go and challenge trolls to a fight on Twitter to go meet you outside the bar or whatever, which is what Gerald McCoy does or did. You know, it's just dumb things that they do. You know, I don't get that franchise at all. So yeah, so these next two games. And before I had all kinds of technical problems and even dropped out for a while. Yeah, these next two games for the Panthers and the Saints are critical games because it goes a long way to determine who's going to win a division, because I don't think Atlanta, you know, I'm probably jinxing myself, but I don't think Atlanta can get back into winning the division. I think with you guys having a win over us playing them twice, I think that should be enough to put some distance between us and the Falcons and you guys and the Falcons. I think we have to win these two games, and you guys need these two games to see who's going to win the division. Right. So it should be a battle royal this Sunday in the Dome.
Right, and I fully expect it to be. And since we're there, let's go ahead and talk about this game Sunday. I think for us, the year we've been having rushing the ball has just been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Alvin Kamara is like the steal of the draft.
Absolutely.
Okay. This guy is so impressive. So impressive. And for the Panthers, that's what it's going to come down to. We have to shut down your run so that we believe it or not, we want the game to be in Brees' hands. That's so suicidal sounding.
Yeah, we've talked about this in the past. We've talked about this in the past. It's just it's an amazing phenomenon.
Drew Brees win the game for you, because if you run the ball on us, it's going to be over. You know, it's going to be over. We have to tackle. We have to group tackle. And we have to make you guys, put you guys behind the chains as often as we can.
Yeah.
And I think that the team that runs the ball better and the team that wins the battle of field position will win this game. Of course, turnovers are going to be a huge factor.
Mm-hmm.
But really, I think the two biggest factors are the field position battle and the running game.
I totally agree with that. And I would say the same thing about you guys. For the Saints to win this game, we have to take away the run, and that includes Cam running. And we have to, believe it or not, make Cam throw the ball. Confident our secondary can take away for Cam and long throw deeper routes, and that gives our Cam an opportunity to go after Cam Newton and make some plays by getting some sacks and things. But if we allow Cam Newton to run around and be the running game and let Christian McCaffrey run CMC, run with the ball, and then of course Stewart always seems to have a good game against us too. We got some problems because they want passing oriented game because we think we can win that kind of matchup. And turnovers, of course. Turnovers are always huge.
Right.
That was one of the few games we lost Sunday where we have a battle and still lost the game because we had one interception and we didn't turn the ball over once.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't happen very often for us. I think we have like 15 55-2 record, I think, where we win the turnover battle. So it's just
Right.
it's something ungodly like that. And I think that was our second loss.
That's pretty amazing, and you guys have really just put it together this year. Everything you do on offense just seems to work. It's just been an impressive run.
It's
This game I really feel that whoever wins this game is definitely going to be in the driver's seat for the division. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
I really believe that.
I'll go
Okay.
a step further. Whoever wins this game is going to win the division.
For me, it's I don't quite feel that comfortable because of how close the Atlanta game was for us. I feel fine. We do play Tampa in week 16, and then we play Atlanta in week 17. That's how it goes for us. So, and we're in Atlanta.
And unfortunately, and let's just say, for the sake of argument, let's just say that we beat you guys Sunday.
Yeah.
So that last game could very well be a fight for the wild card.
It's exactly what it would be.
And if it's here's the worst case scenario, at least for Falcon and Panther fans, if the Saints win all the rest of their games, and the Panthers and the Falcons now are battling for that wild card spot, and they're the best two teams, y'all could be looking at a rematch the following week at wild card weekend.
Right?
Yeah. So
we've been preaching to people for years now, just exactly how very, very not only competitive but good the NFC South is. And if the season ended today, there would be 3 of our 4 teams in the NFC South in the playoffs.
That says a lot right there.
You've got 2 league MVPs that play in this league. You've got Super Bowl participants, the last 2 Super Bowl participants.
Right.
This is the only conference, the only division where all 4 teams, since the founding of this division, been to the Super Bowl, and 2 of them won it.
Right.
So I mean, no other division can say that. None of them. It's the most competitive. It's the best division in football.
Yeah,
you've got 3 elite quarterbacks.
This season absolutely proves it. I know I got to try to get back to my show and finish up. So I want to ask you guys one last thing. What you think the score will be for this?
I'm terrible at these things.
I am too, man.
I'm going to say it's a 3-point game where one of the 2 teams is going to kick the game-winning field goal as the time expires. I'm going to go with my Saints, obviously, but I'm going to say it's going to be like a 31-27 kind of game. I mean, even though I just said the game-winning field goal now at 4 points. But it's going to be that kind of game. It's the last possession is going to win this ball game.
Right. I. What about you, Sean? What do you think?
Oh man, if you go back and watch every time I've ever appeared on C3, I really, really, really suck at this. But I'm going to say 31-17 Saints.
You love that score.
I think
you love that score. That's a Super Bowl score.
That's why I picked it. I'm watching the highlight reel as we speak.
Oh, okay. 31-17, our Super Bowl score. I got you. Tracy Porter's not picking it off, though.
Well, he just ran in the end zone. But seriously, I think that especially if Lattimore and Crawley are able to return, defense is going to be able to get a leg up on an ineffectual Carolina offense, and I think they're going to be able to limit Cam to his scrambling and what have you. And I don't see the Carolina defense being able to control what last week proved was the mainstay of this New Orleans offense, and that's the attack of Ingram and Kamara in conjunction with one another. I just think that we may not have been for the past several couple of years, but I do believe that we're a better team now than Carolina is.
Yeah, no one can argue what you just said for the Panthers. No one can make an argument against that, what you just said. But one thing I'll say is this team that you're playing now is not the team that you played back in Charlotte.
That's exactly what
I would agree with that.
Exactly what I was about to say. I don't think that this is going to track towards being the same type game as what you saw in week 3 by any stretch of the imagination, especially if Olsen is able to be active on Sunday. But I see this past Sunday as being somewhat of a motivational tool, or as you put it, Joey, possibly a wake-up call.
Yeah.
And maybe 31-17 was too generous spread to give it. But I do believe that the Saints are going to be able to impose their will on that Carolina defense.
Right.
Of course, that being said, they're going to have the Saint killer on defense, which, as Alan alluded to earlier, Olsen is the Saint killer on offense, while Carolina has the Saint killer on defense in Luke Kuechly. That defensive unit with Kuechly is completely different phenomenon than it is without Kuechly. It always has been and always will be.
Absolutely. I think the game is going to be, well, I know it'll be closer than it was in week 3. I'm certain of that.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it'll be a close game. I think it will be like a 4 or 5 point game, somewhere in that area. But I think the Panthers do certainly have revenge on their mind. I think the Panthers, they got their own version of a wake-up call against the Jets. Thank Lord willing, Greg Olsen will be back. And he's such a veteran and has been in this system long enough to where he should be able to slip right in and just hit the ground running. And, I think, like I said, the revenge factor, Greg Olsen coming back, I think the game is Carolina's going to squeak out a win. We're around, 27, 28-27, 28-26, somewhere in that area. I think it's going to be really close.
We're definitely all going to be.
I will say this. If Carolina wins Sunday, then that almost doubles the likelihood that there will be a Carolina Panthers New Orleans Saints 3 this season.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Oh, yeah.
I think you're right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That would be the rubber match.
Hmm?
And I do apologize for the 31-17, man.
No,
well, I'll tell you,
guys. I mean, it could very well happen. It could very well happen. Well, guys, I gotta run. I gotta get back on to my show. And
absolutely,
Joey. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joey, as always.
Hey, guys, it was my pleasure. It really was. I love coming on the show and being on with you guys. It's always fun. And really, I could have done the entire show with you. I would have loved to have been able to do that. But yeah, we've got our show still going. And
that's to hang with.
Well, you're
That's
always
it. That's
welcome.
it.
If there's a rubber match game, we're gonna have you back on for sure.
Okay, awesome. I
Joey,
hope you
tell
guys.
if you
I
would
wish you
tell
guys
everyone
the
real
best of
quickly how to
luck on
follow
Sunday
your
up
podcast.
to the point where nobody gets hurt. As far as anything else goes, I don't wish you any good luck. All right, you guys have a great night. Thanks for having me on, and I look forward to Sunday. Oh, by the way, Sunday is my birthday, so I guess you kind of know what I'm going to be wishing.
Okay.
Sunday is my birthday, so you know what my birthday wish will be.
That you beat the Vikings. Got it.
Exactly. All right.
I hear you.
Thanks again, guys, and y'all have a great night, okay?
All right, you too, Joey.
Thank you so much, Joey.
All right.
You can follow Joey. I know he couldn't hear us, but you can follow Joey on Twitter. He is a freaking Puerto Rican on Twitter, which I love that Twitter handle. It's hilarious. And he's also Carolina Cat Chronicles. That's their podcast. They're also on Twitter. Yeah.
I asked him one time, I said, dude, you don't look like a Puerto Rican. He said, well, it's more of a family thing. I said, okay.
Well, I think that's why he used his old high school football photo instead of his real picture for any kind of discussion he has. He's not gas. He's got a face for radio. But he puts a logo up instead. So
I think the world of that guy.
Great guy.
He crossed paths as I said about years ago maybe, and he mentioned in passing that they were wanting to expand their brand and possibly get into sponsoring a podcast from each NFC South team.
Mm-hmm.
I said, oh, how cool. And I did the appearance, and then they called me back, and I did another appearance and another one and another one. And I just, in the back of my mind, I kept thinking about that. And finally, I reached out to him and I said, hey, how serious were you on doing that? And that, through the course of that conversation in the next maybe month of correspondence back and forth, what you guys have enjoyed for over a year now, the Under the Dome podcast.
There you go. Well, they talk about us on the show, so if you watch them, they talk about the stuff we talk about on the games, especially when it gets close to a Carolina Saints game. And I really can't hate on Carolina. It's not like Atlanta.
No, not
Carolina,
by any means.
Carolina's only been a rival since 2002, and Jake Delhomme was their quarterback, and he's a fellow UL alum, and a former Saint, so I can't really dismiss him for that.
I can never hate Carolina for the simple fact of Sam Mills.
Yeah, they had Sam Mills, they had Brett Maxey.
And not a lot of people know, but the cancer that killed Sam Mills is the same type of cancer that.
Yeah.
So
I watched Life on Sam Mills. It was really, it was really well done. It really was. It was nice. I wish Pat Swilling could have chimed in with his thoughts, but he obviously for some reason couldn't make it. It's not that he dislikes his old teammates or anything like that. It was just one of those things where he just wasn't right for him. Because he lives in New Orleans. His sons went to Brother Martin. Even his adopted son went to Brother Martin. So he is invested in this community. He was a member of the state legislature for a little while, I believe. So he
never knew that.
Yeah, he is invested in this community. He raised his family here. He's an important part. He recognizes Sam, and he has his own special feelings about Sam. I just wish it would have worked out that all three of them would have been sitting at that table talking about Sam Mills, and it just didn't happen. So
maybe we need to extend our platform to him to voice his opinion on Sam Mills. Because as you and I have discussed before, my favorite member of the Dome Patrol was always Pat Swilling.
To my Vaughn Johnson, and I was a Pat Swilling fan. Didn't like Ricky Jackson. It's not to say I didn't like Sam Mills, but Pat Swilling was the glamour guy.
I liked Sam Mills because he and I were the same height. But I can guarantee you, if ever get the endorsement of Pat Swilling, I would just be sitting here going,
yeah, you're right. Here's the thing about Swilling, and we'll say this and we'll kind of wrap it up after that. You got to remember, Pat Swilling was playing in the era of Lawrence Taylor. Taylor wins the Super Bowl in '86, just as Pat Swilling comes into the league. You know, everything's about LT, 56, LT. Well, here we got a 56, and he's a pass rusher, and he's a terror on the edge. And we played the Giants a couple times. We beat them in '87. We lost in '88, and I think we beat them again '90. Might be off on a year on that, but anyway, you know, it was. And then of course there's the Bill Parcells motivational thing with Peter King tells that story, and I love it. You know, where Irv Pinky used to give Lawrence Taylor trouble. Bill Parcells told Pat Swilling, he told Lawrence Taylor, "Why don't you go fly down to New Orleans up here? You don't even change jerseys, and he can handle. You can't, obviously, or evidently, or something to that effect." And boy, it pissed Lawrence Taylor off, and I just like that whole validation of, yes, see, we got one now too. So it was a big deal in those days because, you know, the Saints had, even during the Dome Patrol days, people just don't get this. The Saints had zero respect from the national media. They were like, oh, yeah, they're kind of cute. Like Jacksonville right now, okay? That's kind of how the Saints were. Yeah, that's cute. They got a good defense and all, but, you know, come playoff time, they're not going anywhere. You know, we know how this is going to play out. And that was the story of the Saints. Especially, imagine Jacksonville, as good as Jacksonville is, in the same division with New England, and New England's always beating them.
Yeah.
And that's how it was with us, with the 49ers. That's why, as much as people talk about how great that defense was, that was one of the things that was always hurting us, is that we couldn't beat the 49ers. And if you can't beat the 49ers, you can't advance in the playoffs, because the 49ers were the force to be reckoned with.
That's right.
In the playoffs.
The only thing you're ever going to be able to hope for in the division with the 49ers in that era was a wild card.
Yeah. I mean, we went 12-3.
And you just didn't have the team to do it then.
12-4 in '87 and '92, the bookends of the Dome Patrol years. And both times we were wild cards. We couldn't win the division. You know, San Francisco was always one game better than us, and it's because they beat us. They swept us in '92. They split with us in '87. We never swept them. I think they had a 9-2 record against us. You know, they beat us that many times, and it was always last minute beats. Always something.
Well, phantom touchdowns help.
Oh, don't get me started on that bullshit there. That was 19.
I saw that. Up in your forehead.
Oh. They showed in the NFL films of Football Life, they showed that in a forward pass. They dared show it from above, see it in the side view, that Rice fumbled before he crossed the line. It's a touchback. So yeah, that still burns me to this day. Certain things burn me. Yeah, certain things burn me. That Big Ben, Russell Erxleben in 79, letting that punt go over his head, and then trying to throw it. And so just kick it out of the end zone or do something with it. Run with it. Scoop it up and run with it, Do something. I mean, yeah. There's certain things
And
that just
on
stick
that
with me.
note,
Yes.
we want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Obviously, we love you guys. We thank you so much for joining us each and every week and being a part of what we're doing. And we invite you to further be a part of what we're doing by reaching out to us. Contact us. Tell us what you like, what you didn't like, what you would like more of. This is your show. We are just simply the facilitators of that. And you can reach us on our Facebook page at Under the Dome Podcast, Twitter at Under the Dome PO1. And we invite you guys to reach out to us. And once again, thank you so much for being a part of what we do here.
3 things that John Butler is going to learn on Under the Dome Podcast. Saints 49ers game where Jerry Rice does not have a full number of touchdowns. I promise you that'll be on the list. -1. It's like Mike Ditka at the strike game where he had the instant replay review. I think it was. He had to put in the Bears facts and statistics book that they hand out to the press. He's got an asterisk mark next to a Green Bay victory over the Bears, and it has, if you look at the bottom of the thing next to the asterisk, it's got replay game, because they called a replay and they ruled that the Packers, I think, got a score that Dick felt like they didn't deserve. So that's me in 1989 with the 49ers touchback game, not a legitimate score, and we lost by 4 points, I think, in that game. I think we lost 27-24. Oh, painful crap. All right. Thank you guys for sticking with us. We went overtime. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. I don't know. It's Google Hangout. Must be Cyber Tuesday. People buying stuff and surfing porn and jamming up our internet connection. And we're talking about a Panthers win. So, not Panthers win. Saints win over the Panthers, not a Panthers win.
I was wondering.
Win over the Panthers. All right. Thank you guys for sticking with us. And as always, we'll see you next time under the dome. Good night, everybody.
Good night.